Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast, your go-to source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We hope you tune in often for all things people management, organizational development and change, organizational leadership, and social impact related. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Darren Winterford about training transformations in the HR department of one. Darren Winterford, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thanks, Sean.
It's a real pleasure to have you. You're joining us from Australia. So it's afternoon for me here in Utah. It's morning for you there in Australia. And I'm excited to have a nice conversation around training and tech-enabled training, which really gets into your background. We're going to be focusing on training transformations and the quote unquote HR department of one, what you really mean by that and what that means for the future of the HR profession, for the HR functions, and really the future of work all the way around. As we get started, I wanted to share Darren's bio with everybody. Darren Winterford is CEO and founder of EdApp, has extensive experience building mobile apps and pushing the boundaries of innovation. As a pioneer in the micro-learning space, EdApp's teams, led by Darren, are established in Sydney, London, Manila, and New York. Today, the EdApp platform has wide reach, where around 50,000 lessons are completed every day in over 90 countries around the world. With the current focus on the democratization of learning, EdApp, together with the United Nations, have launched Educate All, an initiative to increase access to free, high quality, and impactful education around the world. Darren is a well-rounded speaker and thought leader. He has been asked to speak at many events, including the L&D and Innovation Tech Fest conference, which resulted in EdApp winning the Most Innovative Award. He has also been featured in podcasts such as Make It Happen and broadcasts like OzBiz. Thanks again for joining us. Anything else you would like to share with listeners by way of your background before we launch on into the conversation?
No, it's great to be here. Currently in Sydney, Australia, which is in lockdown. We unfortunately didn't get our vaccination rates as high as the government would like. And Australia has always been an island, but it truly is at the moment with no way on or off. So I'm interested to talk to people from the outside world.
Wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure. And, you know, I've spent some time in Sydney and Brisbane, beautiful places. And I just really love Australia and I want to get back. So hopefully this whole COVID mess gets behind us soon. People will get vaccinations. We'll get past this and international travel will open back up and we'll be able to go see things in person.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be too long.
Well, so let's start by talking a little bit about Educate All, this initiative in partnership with, the EdApp and the United Nations. Tell us a little bit about really the origins of EdApp and then how you got connected with United Nations for this Educate All initiative.
Awesome. Yeah, we really have noticed several years ago that around the world, the level of training in adult education, particularly workforce training, for a lot of employees is non-existent. And, the majority of classroom training probably takes place using PowerPoint or, gathered around a whiteboard on the factory floor, if at all. And the, mobile technology has really enabled a wider access to education for anyone that has a smartphone. And so the origins of EdApp really were to look at the ability to push out workplace learning from, the center of an organization, whether that be the HR department, the L&D department, and push it out to people's mobile devices to help them be able to do the best work of their lives every day, to be able to perform and to be able to grow, and predominantly in the workplace. And we realized that there was, as our platform was being used and growing rapidly, that there are a lot of learning and development departments around the world that have a great deal of knowledge when it comes to some of the skills that are more broadly applicable than just in the workplace. So things like leadership skills, things like entrepreneurship, things like running a team effectively, really valuable content that really a broader audience could consume. And so we began talking to some of our clients, and one of our clients was the United Nations, who was using EdApp to push out learning into places like Afghanistan and Iraq and parts of Southern Africa. And there's all this great learning, as I say, that's been put together, but it's limited to, those organizations that are using our platform. And some of it is so good, and it seemed like frankly, such a waste that material should be limited by, the corporate veil. And so we began to talk to clients to say, look, is any of this particular IP for your company? Is there anything here that you wouldn't like in the public domain? And for the majority of learning and development professionals, they were very interested in the idea that, hey, would you like this to be able to go and help potentially other adults and potentially young adults to get ahead and maybe to enter the workforce for the first time? So in other words, is there a way that people can access this learning and development material if they're not currently employed, and if their employer hasn't decided to deploy EdApp? And so what we did is we embarked on this program called Educate All. Even though we are a B2B platform, we actually opened up a part of the product to what we would say, the consumer. And now anyone with a smartphone can access EdApp on the App Store, on Google Play, can sign in as what we say a self-directed learner, and they can access all the same content as our corporate partners and anyone that has decided to donate courseware into that platform. And so now there's 600 or 700 courses in there that are being taken all over the world, and it's completely free.
Well, that is just amazing. Is the content branded by different companies that contributed it, or is it free of branding even?
Yeah, it can be, but there's probably 60% of the content. If a self-directed learner discovers it and is engaging with it and may happen to have a part-time job or would like to tell an employer about it, that employer is able to also sign up for a free account. EdApp is a freemium product. So you can actually access the product, you can access the entire library, and you can rebrand and edit about 60% of the library and deploy out to teams absolutely free. It's only our enterprise features where we start asking for a paid product.
Well, that is just incredible. And I'm excited after this interview to go check it out because I think that's really amazing. And I'm a big believer. So I'm in the HR people consulting space, but I'm also a professor. And so I'm a big believer in open education resources and providing free information as broadly as possible. And in the higher ed space, there's a lot of push behind behind open source textbooks and various learning technologies. I think this is tremendous, and this could be a great complement to a lot of what happens in traditional university spaces, as well as in more traditional corporate training spaces. A real no-brainer in my mind, to utilize these types of resources.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we just saw so many, even employees, and we're going to touch on the HR department of one, but typically what that means is, one person at an organization, and typically, let's say between, 50 and 100 team members or staff, there's no L&D department. They're there to hire, to fire, to, move people around the organization and sign off sick leave. That's predominantly what they're about. They don't have the time to start investing and thinking about growing people. And so what EdApp does, hence the term democratizing education, is it allows them to, they can go on, as I say, EdApp's completely free. they can take that, they can look at the content in the library. And as I say, there's hundreds of courses, they're rated, reviewed, and there might be leadership skills, working as a team, all of that material. But there's all the UN material is there. We've got material donated by lots of large corporates, across the United States and elsewhere. They can then drag that into their account. They can rebrand it. They can give it some context. They can shoot a video and appear in it. They can change all of it if they wish, but it gives them that template to then be able to say, here's a dozen or so courses that I can then assign to my team. And they receive simply an email that says, hey, you've been invited to EdApp, jump in, download the app, and you've got yourself there a world-class, frankly, corporate learning solution that you don't have to pay for unless you're after these, really enterprise-grade features, really advanced analytics and some of those things. We have a translation engine that is powered by Google, so we translate into 105 languages. But again, if you don't need that, you don't have to pay for it, and you can run EdApp completely free forever. There's no time limits or anything like that. It's, we want this product to be a force for good, and it certainly is. As I say, we see it being used by very large, the UN, all their affiliated agencies like UNESCO, UN Women, UN AIDS. It's also used by other organizations like WHO, like Plan International. It's used a lot in the developing world. But also, as you say, there's a lot of universities, a lot of university professors use it to just be that top-up micro-learning to help embed concepts with students. We all know students spend an inordinate amount of time on their mobile phone or their smartphone. So, this is a perfect way to be able to just embed those in those topics. And there's a lot of advanced features in there like spaced repetition, et cetera, that can help students really embed that knowledge you're looking for them to retain.
I'm excited to announce the publication of my new book from HCI Press, Bluer Than Indigo Leadership: The Journey of Becoming a Truly Remarkable Leader. Early in my adult life, I learned about an Asian proverb that translates as bluer than indigo. If you think about the color indigo, it is a brilliant, deep, and vibrant blue, what some would call the bluest of blues. To have something that is bluer than indigo is rare and truly remarkable. Contrary to popular myth, there is no one-size-fits-all or cookie-cutter approach to effective leadership. There's no silver bullet, no secret sauce, no go-to model that will solve all of our problems. The truth is, great leaders have all had their unique strengths and flaws, and have all had to discover and then pave their own distinctive path in their life's journey to fulfill their leadership potential. Bluer Than Indigo Leadership will help you discover your own path and explore those ordinary, everyday actions that will help you respond to an uncertain future and produce extraordinary results for individuals, teams, and organizations. Yeah, that is so cool. And when this feeds into really what we're going to be talking about with the HR department of one, and really learning and training transformation that's happening, across spaces. Tell us a little bit about this is clearly what you do all day. Tell us more about what you're seeing in terms of these learning, training transformations that are happening in companies.
Yeah, look, COVID has been a big accelerator of what we were seeing anyway, but obviously the traditional classroom, where people were booking a time with a trainer and sitting in a dark room with an overhead projector, 5 or 6 years ago, that model is clearly being challenged. We've now got this mixture of at least hybrid, if not, totally remote, even on the, in the more traditional workplaces. We have flexible hours and the like. So the idea of pulling people into a classroom, particularly in the workplace, is less and less palatable. And so these kind of hybrid tools like EdApp, that we have a feature that allows you to run a Zoom and then to take place in some learning intervals that take place, over the next 5 to 6 weeks. It's delivered out in micro learning, so it's in very small chunks, and you do a few minutes a day or 30 minutes a week at your own pace. on your mobile device. And that very much is being seen as, a model that represents the sort of flexibility and the power that organizations are now looking for with these flexible workforces and the way that the workforce is evolving. And so we see particularly, this move from the classroom to what we would call e-learning. With EdApp, it really is just about accelerating that past still asking people to sit down at a desktop, which again already feels like something that belongs in the dark ages, and pushing content out directly to a mobile device and having that accessible to the employee is definitely that other key theme that we're seeing out of HR departments. They're looking for something highly engaging. They're looking for something that they can maybe even foster a little bit of competition between employees, and I mean that in a friendly way, but ways that can also help a team feel a sense of belonging. And so, the smartphone, there's no doubt, everyone's learned, either it's via social media or otherwise, that these devices do have a sort of personal connection. If we can include some gamification, and EdApp has things like leaderboards, and it does enable also it fosters a sense of organizational culture, and it does add back more than just 30 minutes of sitting in front of a laptop or a desktop and just getting through your company training. It's much more than that. We can instill a sense of culture in the way that the learning is taken on by employees, and that does tend to be the resounding feedback from companies of all sizes. And EdApp's deployed by some organizations out to 30 or 40,000 employees, all the way down the bottom to 30 or 40, and the feedback is the same. It does enable those employees to feel like their employers care about their welfare, that they're investing in those employees, that they are part of a team. And we have a number of features, discussions and assignments, and these various ways that you feel a part of the community when you're using it, even if it's amongst a small organization. You can see, and there's badges being earned, and that sort of triggers, I guess, that help someone feel not just that they're completing the company's learning, but they're engaged and they're part of something, they're part of their team. Their employer, as I say, has taken the time to help develop them as an individual. And so, we tend to find very, very good feedback. And I would say that, dramatically, the growth of our platform, and indeed of mobile learning, has, was on the rise, but post-COVID, and obviously we've seen about 300% growth. So we're talking about something pretty significant.
Yeah, that is just so cool. And you talked a little bit about gamification. You talked about micro-credentialing and the micro-learning and the badges. I mean, all of this is very important in the modern technology-enhanced learning space, right? Whether we're talking about a university setting, a corporate setting, whatever. And we really have to wrap our minds around how to do that more effectively. And it's wonderful that here we have a resource that is free and that anyone can start checking out. So I think that's incredible. So how does this then connect to the idea of the HR department of one? What do you mean by that? And why is that important for us to think about?
Yeah, it can be easy for large software companies and business to business solutions to focus on the enterprise customer, and look, the likes of Coke, Nike, Apple, Google, wonderful clients to have, large revenue and large cohorts of learners. But the majority of Americans actually belong to organizations and work for organizations where it's not of a size that will have a complete L&D team. It's not of a size that will have individuals dedicated to just authoring and putting together material to help them develop as an individual. And in fact, the majority of us work for what we call companies with a HR department of one. And that person is responsible for, as I say, for recruitment, for, employee welfare, for managing, sick pay, managing benefits, juggling legal, requirements of different states. Their day, unfortunately, isn't focused on the growth personally of a team member or an employee. And so that we tend to find is a real shift we would like to make with EdApp, to not only be able to have a very powerful corporate solution, but to be able to provide, and as we said, democratize workplace learning for those people, be accessible for those HR departments of one who, potentially can take an afternoon to explore our platform, look for those bits of courseware that are going to be most effective for their team, do some customization, rebrand it, get a message from the boss in there, go through and take out anything they don't like, add anything that they do that might be hyper local. Maybe they can have a team member go and take some photos of whatever it is they're educating about. You can easily just re-author that into the platform. It's what you see is what you get editor. So it's very, very simple to use. And then they can go and deploy that out. And in most cases, that can be done very, very quickly. And we've been able to optimize for, that HR department of one to then, to give them a learning solution that they can then talk about, and not only with existing employees, but they've then got, if they're trying to bring new people into the organization, even though they're under-resourced, they do have an onboarding program. They do have skills development. They do have some of the access to learning and development that would normally be enjoyed by a larger organization. In these smaller organizations, which frankly, as I say, most of us work for, and those that need the most help, all the largest companies at some stage started at this scale. And what we really want to be doing is fostering those organizations to become, the leaders of the future. And so that's why for us, we love talking to these kinds of companies. There are obviously thousands of them out there, but they have a real need. And we tend to find that they're quite progressive. They're very interested. And for a lot of them, they can use the product even without charge. So for us, it's a really wonderful result if we're able to touch these levels of organizations that frankly, currently have nothing. They currently probably use PowerPoint, or they might sit around and have a discussion once a month with the new round of people that are onboarding.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much, Darren, for providing a little bit of an overview to EdApp and all of the really great work that you and your team are doing. I know at the time we're getting short on time, but before we close, I wanted to give you a chance to share with listeners how they can get connected with you, find out more about your work, what you can offer them and their organization, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Sure. Yeah, the best way to experience EdApp is obviously just go and visit us at edapp.com. Very, very, very easy, very accessible. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect personally. And I'm always happy to talk to anyone interested in exploring more about the space. But yeah, we're really, really excited about where 2022 is going to take us. We've obviously seen this massive digital transformation, and that includes the learning and training space as well. And we would really like to continue to really be able to offer this fantastic platform to those that need it most. So we're really looking forward to continuing our growth, particularly there in the US.
Excellent. I know I'm going to check it out. I encourage listeners to check it out. Check out Darren and his team and find out more about what they can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership. Ordinary, everyday actions that produce extraordinary results. Consider how the nature of work has shifted over the past 50 years. With increased globalization, rapid technological advancement, and the shift in economic composition, the average job of today looks very different than the average job of 50 years ago. What will the jobs and organizations of tomorrow look like? Moreover, what does this all mean for organizational leaders? What are the core competencies and capabilities of organizations and their leadership that are prepared for continued disruption and geopolitical and socioeconomic shifts? Regardless of what the future holds, increasingly, leaders need to be socially minded, data-driven, decisive, champions of talent, and disruptors of the traditional notions of leadership, teams, organizations, and work. The alchemy of truly remarkable leadership will help you to explore your own leadership competencies and capabilities and consider ways to apply and implement them into your workplace and personal life. Check out Human Capital Innovations magazine, Human Capital Leadership. Human Capital Leadership is a free, interactive e-magazine with the mission to help individuals, leaders, and organizations find innovative approaches to maximize their human capital potential. We publish issues quarterly in August, November, February, and May. Take a look at the latest issue and let us know what you think. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.